Iran threatens an assassination and tries to pull us once again back into the Middle East. NBC says all of the peace deals that are going on around the world are trash. Rogan decides that he wants to host a 4-hour debate with the presidential candidates, but leaves one important one out. And there may be life on Venus. I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Good morning, folks, and welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar. We've got a bunch to get to today. It looks like I am going just a little bit hot on the mic here, so we'll try and see if we can't keep that adjusted down so I don't blow your eardrums out as we do this. But we've got a little bit to get to today. It's not as busy as some days throughout the week, but there's still a fair amount for us to get to. But before we get started, head on over to freedomscoop.com. FreedomScoop.com is going to be your one-stop shop for all of your news and commentary needs. We carry the Daily Ignoramus, we carry my show, we also carry the Generational Gap, the Breakdown with Birkenhoff, the R-Rated Conservative, and the Freckles and Rich Show. Head on over there and check us out, pick up some of our swag, and help us support great creators. Alright, we're going to start off today with the stocks here. I got to crank this down here. Give me 1 second to throw some on-air production in for you guys, because I just keep seeing it pop up there, and it's going to blow your eardrums out. Hate to throw a lot of on-air production with you guys, but I can't just keep seeing the peak go on, because we're all going to hear it, especially when we go back onto the audio platforms. Yeah, that is peaked once again. Let's draw that back just a little bit there. 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, that's a little bit better. All right, back to what we were doing. Okay, starting off looking at the stocks here. Looks like we are cranking. I mean, the market's cranked along yesterday pretty well. We're looking at almost 28,000 again at the close, up 1.18%. I know that there was talks that the vaccine could be going through, which once again, I will not be taking the vaccine, but with the historic peace deals coming off everywhere and a vaccine coming out, the virus case total going down and nobody in the news talking about it, the riots going down, this would be a good time to start looking at the markets again, especially if you haven't been looking at them at any time recently. Look into them, see if you can get some of the stuff that's down on the bottom, and see if you can't pull your retirement up a little bit here. Let's see what the investors have to say, though. From Investors Business Daily, Dow Jones Futures stock market rally gets a win. Apple in buy zone. Tesla rival Nikola sinks on SEC probe. From Ed Carson. Dow Jones Futures rose solidly Tuesday morning, along with S&P 500 futures and NASDAQ futures. The stock market rally got a much-needed win on Monday, with Apple, Adobe stock rebounding bullishly, and Tesla moving back above a key level. Additionally, Lennar reported a surprise earnings gain late Monday, as home builders and the broader housing sector have been holding up well. Lennar stock fell overnight after closing a near record high. Meanwhile, would-be Tesla rival Nikola fell sharply in extended trade on report that the SEC will examine recent short seller claims. Nikola stock had jumped 11% on Monday as the electric truck startup somewhat rebutted Hindenburg Research claims of intricate fraud. So we'll be seeing there if Tesla remains on the top of the market for electric vehicles, with a couple of smatterings coming from the gas-powered guys to go with it, or if they actually do get some competition going forward. And I would like to see some competition with them. Let's keep going. Stock market rally rebounds. After a rough 2 weeks, the stock market rally had a positive session Monday, helped by merger activity and coronavirus vaccine news. The NASDAQ is back above its 50-day moving average, with Tesla and merger-fueled NVIDIA along with big drivers. But investors should look to see if the NASDAQ can get back above its 21-day exponential moving average and even last week's peak before feeling more confident. Tech futures suggest the NASDAQ will open near its 21-day line. Apple stock rebounded from its 10-week line. That's actionable, though market conditions are a concern. Meanwhile, Adobe also bounced from its 10-week line. But with Adobe earnings due Tuesday night, a new position would be highly risky, except with an option strategy. Tesla stock spiked back above its 21-day moving average, and the 400 level, but that's a very volatile chart with a slew of news for Tesla and rivals in the next few weeks. If you make purchases, make them small, cast a wide net for possible buys. Several breakouts Monday come outside the tech sector. Also, the housing sector is acting well, in addition to Lennar, LGI Homes, and other home builders. Mortgage plays such as PennyMac Financial and home furnishings plays such as Tempur Sealy perked up. Both of those last two stocks broke out on Monday. Mini medicals are looking interesting. Gilead Science is paying a 108% premium for Immunomedics in a $21 billion deal with a B. Boosting cancer and biotech plays, Guardian Health broke into a 52-week high for the cancer test specialist. Rare disease biotech Horizon Therapeutics jumped 8.6% to a record close near various buy points. Meanwhile, Agnico Eagle Mines cleared a buy point as gold stock shines. DraftKings skyrocketed to a new high on a big ESPN deal, and the fact that, in spite of the fact that I don't care about football and fantasy football, some people still do. Apple, Tesla, Adobe, LGI Homes, and Nvidia and Angico stock are on the IBD leaderboard. Adobe stock is on the IBD long-term leaders. Nvidia, PennyMac Financial, Horizon Therapeutics stock are on the IBD 50. For the futures, Dow Jones futures today rose 0.6% versus fair value. S&P 500 futures advanced 0.7%. NASDAQ 100 futures climbed 1.1%. Remember, overnight action in Dow futures, Nikola stock, and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session. China retail sales in August rose 0.5% versus a year earlier, better than July's 1.1% decline, and views for a break even. It was first gain in 2020. Industrial production climbed 5.6%, slightly better than estimates. New York Fed Empire Manufacturing Index for September is due at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. The August Industrial Production Report is set for 9:15 a.m. Eastern Time. The Federal Reserve policy meeting begins today with an announcement due Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Well, I know what the people in my audience think about the Fed, and I know because that's Ron's Twitter avatar and his YouTube avatar. So that's what we think about the Fed over there. So we'll see what happens on this tomorrow. Let's look at a little bit of a counter argument coming from CNBC. Get the CNBC politics letter. No thanks. Dow Jones futures jumped 200 points. Apple gains more than 1% from Fred Imbert and Jesse Pound. U.S. stock futures ticked higher Tuesday, putting Wall Street on track to build on its strong gains from the previous session. Dow Jones Industrial Averages futures were up 200 points or 0.7%. S&P 500 futures climbed 0.8%. And NASDAQ 100 futures traded 1% higher. Shares of major tech companies led the early gains, with Apple and Microsoft rising 1.8 and 1.1% respectively. So, hey, Bill Gates could still get you that vaccine, and he'll have, not Steve Jobs because he died. Who's the CEO of Apple now? I don't even know. He'll have him help you, though. Amazon and Alphabet were each up 0.9%. Netflix climbed 1.7%. And Facebook traded nearly 1% higher. That's a lot of your data to sell. Tesla shares, meanwhile, popped 3.8% after surging more than 12% on Monday. Stock futures also got a boost after China reported its first retail sales increase for the year. The country's National Bureau of Statistics said Chinese retail sales rose 0.5% in August. The Shanghai Composite closed 0.5% higher on Tuesday. Oh yeah, you must go out and buy. Our stock market lag. You must go buy. You buy. I don't care if you have no money. You go buy. Thank you. It's Tim Cook. Wall Street was coming off a strong performance on Monday, with the major averages all rallying more than 1% and advancing stocks outnumbering declining ones, nearly 5-1 on the New York Stock Exchange. Sentiment was boosted on Monday by positive news on the vaccine front, with AstraZeneca resuming its phase 3 trial in the UK, and Pfizer CEO Albert Bourla saying over the weekend that the company should be able to present key data from its trial to regulators by the end of October. Optimism about the United States is getting a better handle on the virus was a major reason for the LPL Financial raised its year-end target for the S&P 500 to a range of 3,450 to 3,500 on Monday, said Jeff Buckbinder, an equity strategist at the firm. The target implies an upside of roughly 2% for the market over the rest of the year. Buckbinder said Monday's rally was also fueled by the announcement of major deals in the tech space, including Nvidia's move to buy ARM Holdings from SoftBank for roughly $40 billion. So they're shuffling around. The vaccine is coming out, and you will take it because the government said so, and the government knows what's best for you. And tech stocks are going back up. People are going back to work. A lot of good stuff is happening here. On the financial front, we will see if it translates into the economy and economic growth, and especially the job market as well. So let's watch this closely, and let's move on to the news. Starting off the day from the Daily Wire, Trump administration wins court victory on immigration, from Hank Berrien. On Monday, the Ninth Circuit of Appeals handed the Trump administration a victory, ruling 2-1 that a preliminary injunction barring implementation of decisions to terminate temporary protected status designations of Sudan, Nicaragua, Haiti, and El Salvador would be vacated. Ed Whelan noted at National Review, it might seem surprising that there would be any controversy over DHS's authority to terminate a temporary designation years later. But after ordering DHS to provide the administrative record for its termination decisions, Federal District Judge Edward Chen granted plaintiffs, TPS beneficiaries from these countries and their children, injunctive relief based on their claims under the Administrative Procedure Act and Equal Protection Clause. Circuit Judge Consuelo M. Callahan explained the Temporary Protected Status Program is a congressionally created humanitarian program administered by the DHS that provides temporary relief to nationals of designated foreign countries that have been stricken by national disaster, armed conflict, or other extraordinary and temporary conditions in the foreign state. In 2017 and 2018, secretaries of DHS under the Trump administration terminated the TPS designations of 4 countries, Sudan, Nicaragua, Haiti, and El Salvador. Plaintiffs who are TPS beneficiaries from these countries and their children challenged the TPS determination decisions as unlawful. The court wrote the district court entered a preliminary injunction barring the implementation of the termination decisions. On appeal, the government argues that the district court abused its discretion in issuing the injunction because plaintiffs have not shown a likelihood of success on either of the claims. We agree. The court noted Sudan was originally designated for TPS in 1997 because of an ongoing civil war that prevented the safe return of Sudan nationals. From that time until 2017, the country was periodically extended or redesignated for TPS 15 times by prior administrations based on factors such as forced relocation, human rights abuses, famine, and denial of access to humanitarian agencies. The court added that Acting Secretary Duke terminated the TPS designation of Sudan, concluding that the conflict in Sudan was now limited to Darfur and the 2 areas, South Kordofan and Blue Nile states, and that food security had improved across much of Sudan because of above-average harvests. Nicaragua was initially designated for TPS in 1999 because of Hurricane Mitch. In December of 2017, the acting secretary determined that conditions for Nicaragua's 1999 designation for TPS on the basis of environmental disaster is no longer met. El Salvador was designated for TPS in 2001 because of the effects of 3 earthquakes that caused the displacement of 17% of the population. In January of 2018, Secretary Nielsen terminated El Salvador's TPS designation, writing that the conditions supporting El Salvador's 2001 designation for TPS on the basis of environmental disaster due to the damage caused by the 2001 earthquakes are no longer met. Haiti was originally designated for TPS in 2010 after a 7.0 magnitude earthquake. In January of 2018, Acting Secretary Duke determined that the conditions for Haiti's designation for TPS on the basis of extraordinary and temporary conditions relating to the 2010 earthquake that prevented Haitian nationals from returning safely are no longer met, noting that Haiti had closed 98% of the displaced person sites. So yes, and this is, we look at some of the previous administrations and how they dealt with immigration, and some of that was doing the workarounds, running along saying, okay, well, we're going to give temporary protection status, but we're not going to say when the temporary ends. Well, the temporary has ended for a lot of these countries. What was it? Sudan came up in 1997, and yes, I understand that a lot of regions in Central Africa are very much war torn perpetually. But they have a lot of peace going down into Sudan. The unrest is going along in two places at this point. Some of these people can go home and start to rebuild. And a lot of them are doing a lot of rebuilding. Nicaragua, 1999, 21 years. Sudan, 1997, 23 years. That's an entire generation. 18 years is a generation. That's an entire generation of people that have just stayed here under temporary status. And yes, okay, yeah, they have the right to challenge the ruling as long as they're here. They've got the right to be heard in court. They have the right to have their day in court. But that doesn't necessarily guarantee that they are going to get a win in the court. It's been 23 years for the Sudan. Go join your family, or alternatively, and this is the big one that I have been saying since the beginning, ever since I heard the first time I heard the words, deferred action for childhood arrivals. Go through the process. Become legal. We'd love to have you here. We just want you to go through the process, like everybody else. Don't jump the line because you were a refugee at one point. Go through the process. Find a lawyer, have him walk you through it. I happen to know a paralegal that can probably point you to a lawyer that could help you. So, that's what we're seeing up off of this. Let's pick up what we have coming up out of Fox News here. Iran considering plot to assassinate U.S. ambassador to South Africa. Report says from Andrew O'Reilly. Iran is allegedly mulling over an attempt to assassinate the United States ambassador to South Africa as a retaliation for the American drone attack earlier this year that killed Qasem Soleimani, the head of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps elite Quds force. The news of Tehran's purported plans was first reported by Politico, who spoke with one official familiar with the issue and another official who has seen the intelligence. If Iran does attempt to carry out the assassination, it would severely ratchet up the already tense relations between the Washington and Tehran, along with giving the Trump administration impetus to retaliate. The U.S. Embassy in Pretoria told Fox News it had no comment. U.S. officials have been aware of the threats against the ambassador, Lena Marks, since the spring, but intelligence suggests those threats have become more specific in recent weeks. Marks is just one of the several U.S. officials that American intelligence agencies believe Tehran is considering for retaliation for the killing of Soleimani. An intelligence source told Fox News the intel community is taking the threat against the ambassador seriously and believe the Iranian regime potentially has the ability to act on an assassination plot. Iran has in the past planned assassinations of American ambassadors, which is partly why the intelligence community is taking this particular threat assessment seriously. The source said the intelligence assessment is if Iran attempted the assassination, it would represent a significant escalation. Intel agencies have believed Iran would seek retaliation for killing of Soleimani and have closely monitored. I don't know, that's probably wrong grammatically up on the screen. Iran plans, the source said. Soleimani was killed in a U.S. drone strike in Iraq in early January. So, yes, and honestly, I would not be surprised if Iran has some allies in the military-industrial complex because this is a call to action which could lead out to a call to war. I don't want to keep going on in the Middle East. I would love to see everybody come home from the Middle East at this point, but, Iran is still going to fuck around. And they're going to, what did it take to descend all of Europe into a war in 1918? Was it 18 or 19? I'd have to think about that one for a second. But what did it take? They assassinated the Archduke. And that's what sent us all into the war that we saw, that the U.S. had to get involved into, where Germany for the first time tried to take over the world. So one assassination can be the one that triggers off the next world war. Now, I don't know if Iran is dumb enough to actually make a full-on incursion over the death of Soleimani. And I mean, we've seen throughout the year that that's probably not going to happen. They're probably not going to try and come onto U.S. soil because they would be met with a lot of very angry people with a lot of guns. Pretty much any port that they came into, they'd probably take the first port city. And then all the good old boys, as Stephen Ignoramus put it last night when I was on his show, would all show up with guns and pretty much take care of it all, without the United States military even having to be called. But to do this over on foreign soil, which would draw a retaliatory strike, which Trump has promised would happen if they did this, would escalate tensions and possibly start into a ground war once again. So this is something for us to watch. Now, they've made the plans, they've never made good on the plans, but that doesn't mean they don't have the capability to do so. So definitely keep an eye on this one here. If something bigger in the news doesn't pop up and distract us from everything, as so often seems to happen in this news cycle. Let's keep going from this one here from the New York Post. Trump, Newsom swamp praise on handling of wildfires, agree not to debate climate, from Stephen Nelson. President Trump and California Governor Gavin Newsom on Monday traded rare compliments at a briefing on wildfires while agreeing to disagree whether global warming is a contributing cause. Newsom, a Democrat, and Trump committed to improving forest management and avoiding a clash on whether climate change caused by fossil fuels is responsible. As Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden said in a speech on Monday, and Newsom has also often repeated, the governor, who earlier this year lavished praise on Trump's response to COVID-19's pandemic, hailed Trump's emergency management orders that freed federal funds to fight the fires. The major disaster declaration, which you referenced on August 22nd, was profoundly significant, not only to help us support our mutual aid system, but also individuals that are in desperate need of support, Newsom told Trump of an order that he signed. The state of California and your administration just entered into a first-type commitment over the next 20 years to double our vegetation management and forest management. I want to thank you for supporting that effort. Funding that effort, we acknowledge that our role and responsibility to do more in that space. Newsom conceded that Trump was right to blame dry leaves and logs on the forest floor for contributing to raging fires, saying, "There's no question when you look past this decade, looking past almost 1,000 plus years, that we have not done justice on our forest management." But Newsom also pointed out the much of the land that's on fire is federally owned and asked Trump to agree to disagree and please respect, and I know you do, the difference of opinion out here as it relates to this fundamental issue on the issue of climate change. Absolutely, Trump replied. So, I mean, Newsom, I know there are a lot of Democrats out there that have this massive Trump derangement syndrome. Just this absolutely massive Trump derangement syndrome. You know it. You see him. De Blasio, Cuomo, Whitmer, Biden, Harris. You see him all the time. But Newsom, he'll at least hear the president out, and the two of them can work together. This is not the first time that Newsom has complimented the president. We need some more working together. We need a lot more working together in this country, but right now, all we're seeing as a major vie for power is two parties left and right. And I didn't mean that in the political sense, but it just kind of fits there, but parties left and right, just vying for as much power as they can get their hands on, and really not giving a damn about anybody else. So, definitely good on Newsom for reaching out with the olive branch and getting going on this one. So, absolutely great to see that. Hopefully, we'll come together, get something done, get something out of this, and hopefully, California will start to take seriously the forest management, the dry leaves, the dry logs. And we don't have to see this next year. And if we do have to see it next year, we won't have to see it the year after. Hopefully, we'll have preventative measures in place. All right, let's keep going here from ABC News. Trump to take questions from uncommitted voters in ABC News town hall from Philadelphia. Oh man, I need a haircut, guys. From Libby Cathy. Exactly 7 weeks before Election Day and 2 weeks before the first presidential debate, President Trump on Tuesday night will face uncommitted voters head on in a 90-minute town hall special hosted by ABC News from the battleground state of Pennsylvania. ABC News anchor George Stephanopoulos will anchor the event, The President and the People, from the National Constitution Center in Philadelphia, airing at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. The forum will provide uncommitted voters the opportunity to ask the president their questions on issues affecting Americans, from the coronavirus pandemic and economic recovery to protests for racial justice and climate change. The town hall comes as both presidential candidates say they are counting on taking the Keystone State in November. Trump won Pennsylvania in 2016 by a margin of 0.7%, the narrowest difference in a presidential election for the state since 1840. Tuesday's event will be held in accordance with state and local government COVID-19 regulations and around attendance limits, as well as guidelines set forward by health officials. ABC News offered to host a similar town hall with Democratic presidential nominee and former Vice President Joe Biden, but ABC News and the campaign were not able to find a mutually agreeable date. I bet you that changes in the near future. I bet you the Biden campaign suddenly, oh, no, we want to have a town hall. Come, let's make one. Let's do one in Pennsylvania. Come on. Just like he did in Kenosha. Don't come to Kenosha. I'm going to go to Kenosha. Don't go to Kenosha. I'm going to go to Kenosha. Hey, look, man, you know, the thing, I guess we're going to have to go to Kenosha now. That would actually be interesting to see, too, this town hall. I'm going to see if I can actually get at least a video of this so I can watch it and possibly get some of this up on the screen for you guys, too. I'm sure that there are going to be plenty of tweets out there about it, so we'll probably get some video clips from it. But, yeah, definitely would be an interesting one to watch, to see how the Trump administration wants to sit down and talk to people who haven't made up their minds, which are few and far between at this point in election season, especially as polarized as this country is right now. So, something to definitely watch. Let's keep going. From CNN, Israel and the Kingdom of Bahrain to establish full diplomatic relations, Trump says. From Kevin Liptak, Betsy Klein, and Vivian Salama. I didn't get around to this one yesterday with the packed news from over the weekend, but yeah, we saw Serbia, Kosovo, we've seen Israel and the UAE, and now we are seeing Israel and Bahrain to have full diplomatic relations. And we wonder why they keep saying, oh, Trump is going to get the Nobel Peace Prize. I don't think he's going to get it, but I do understand why those words are on everybody's lips. Let's read on. President Trump said Friday that Israel and Bahrain have agreed to the establishment of full diplomatic relations, marking the second time in a month an Arab Gulf state has announced new ties with a Jewish state and further reshaping alliances in the Middle East. Unveiling the new agreement from the Oval Office, Trump cast the move as a step towards peace in the region. He has worked to broker accords between Arab nations and Israel that he hopes will lead to a broader peace deal. Another historic breakthrough day, Trump tweeted. And yeah, this was 3 days ago. The announcement came less than a week ahead of the White House signing a ceremony between Israel and the UAE that will bring Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Emirati officials to Washington. As a condition of that agreement, Netanyahu agreed to shelve the plans for now to annex sections of the West Bank. He has not ruled out resuming the annexation in the future. You know, it would probably go a long way towards a little bit more peace if you scrap that for right now. But, I mean, far be it for me to decide foreign policy. Bahrain's foreign prime minister, Sheikh Khalid bin Ahmed Al Khalaf, that's a mouthful, will join Israel and the UAE for the signing ceremony currently scheduled for next Tuesday, according to a statement from Trump. Is that this Tuesday or the following one? Because that might be today. Because this article did come out 3 days ago. The announcement comes 2 months ahead of the U.S. presidential election, where Trump hopes for his efforts to forge foreign agreements will help to sway voters. He has touted his support for Israel to evangelicals in particular. Yeah, that's a consistent election strategy. The King of Bahrain, Hamad bin Isa al Khalifa, took part in the phone call with Trump and Netanyahu to discuss the agreement, according to Bahrain's state-run news agency. Al Khalifa stressed the need to reach a just and comprehensive peace as a strategic option in accordance with the two-state solution and relevant resolutions of international legitimacy, according to the report. The king's diplomatic advisor, Khalid bin Khalifa, tweeted that the agreement is in the interest of the security, stability, and prosperity of the region, and sends a positive and encouraging message to the people of Israel that a just and comprehensive peace with the Palestinian people is the best way and the true interest for their future and the future of the peoples of the region. So, yeah, another Gulf state and Israel are forging new relations. Did you think that you were going to see this? Did you think that you would see something like this year? I didn't. I didn't think I'd see anything like this anywhere in my lifetime, but definitely not this year. But of course, now we've got the counterpoint that goes along with this from NBC, and this is an opinion piece. Trump peace deals for Israel, the UAE, and Bahrain are shams. They boost oppression, not amity. From Noura Irakat, human rights attorney. As President Trump presides over a White House ceremony Tuesday that celebrates the establishment of diplomatic ties between Israel and the UAE, boosted by Friday's announcement that the Kingdom of Bahrain and Israel will normalize relations as well, the world needs to see this charade for what it is. Friday's development was framed as a peace agreement, but Bahrain and Israel were never at war. In fact, they had already enjoyed unofficial diplomatic, security, and trade relations. While Trump may be looking to score points as a peacemaker for his presidential bid, what he's doing is simply providing the military, financial, and diplomatic infrastructure to further repress popular struggles for democracy and freedom in the Middle East. He's so evil, people. As a result of its agreement with Israel, the UAE was able to purchase high-tech weapons from the U.S., including Reaper drones, EA-18 G Growler jets, and F-35 fighter planes. Bahrain, which stands to similarly benefit as it seeks air defense systems from the U.S., is yet another Arab state eager to secure the superpower's military backing and diplomatic impunity for gross violations of human rights and the laws of war. Yeah, I can't keep reading this one here, but yes, of course, a human rights attorney is putting an opinion piece out to try and say that it's Trump trying to find a way to force these people down, he's evil. He's making peace left and right with countries that you never thought would be at peace because he's evil, because he really wants to make a military dictatorship in the Middle East that's headed by a large golden tower that says Trump on it. Ha 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 ha! This is fucking gross, you guys. I can't, even CNN didn't sink to this level. But it had to come from NBC, I guess. All right, let's keep going here. From the New York Post, Trump jumps on the offer to have Joe Rogan moderate the debate with Joe Biden. Now, I haven't touched on this one yet. I've been hearing about it, but I thought that it was nothing but rumors. But, as we talked about with Kevin Castro last night, no, this is actually, he's serious about this, and I wouldn't mind seeing this. So let's see what the New York Post has to say. This comes to us from Mark Moore. President Trump on Monday jumped on an offer from mixed martial arts commentator and Spotify podcast host Joe Rogan to moderate a 4-hour debate with the former vice president. I do, Trump responded on Twitter to a post from Tim Kennedy, a retired MMA fighter. On my podcast with Joe Rogan, he offered to moderate a debate between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. It would be 4 hours with no live audience, just the two candidates' cameras and their vision on how to move this country forward. Who wants this? Kennedy said in a tweet. Rogan and Kennedy were discussing the debate Sunday on the podcast, The Joe Rogan Experience. Rogan said that to avoid the bias in the media, he'd be happy to moderate a debate between Biden and Trump. First of all, I want no one else in the room, just the three of us, and you'd have to stream it live so no one can edit it. And I would want them there for 4 hours, Rogan said. If they wanted that, and they both wanted to come here to Austin, sit down and have a debate, I would 100% do it, he continued. You guys ever tried DMT? But I don't think that Biden can handle it. I think Biden is like, people get mad at me for saying this, but I think there's something wrong. And I don't think there's something wrong because I'm guessing, or because I'm pro-Trump. I've seen him fall apart, Rogan said. Yeah, he was blazed for that one. The two candidates have agreed to 3 debates with moderators selected by the Commission on Presidential Debates. And yet no mention of Jorgensen. Wouldn't mind seeing her get up on that stage, but of course, we've already had the explanation as to why that's not possible from a member of the Jorgensen campaign. The first debate will be held on September 29th in Cleveland, the second on October 15th in Miami, and the third October 22nd in Nashville. The moderators are Kristen Welker of NBC, Steve Scully, the political editor of C-SPAN Networks, and Chris Wallace of Fox News. Honestly, the Rogan debate might be the best one of all if the 3 of them actually sit down and come together. Who would not love to see Trump and Biden and Rogan all stoned talking about the direction of the country? Now, I know that would never happen because Trump has been very adamant over the fact that he doesn't touch drugs or alcohol because he's seen how they've destroyed other members of his family. But you'd still love to see it. You would still love to see. I would love to see Biden stoned. Alzheimer's Biden stoned out of his gourd. I want to see the crazy shit that he says. Because I see the crazy shit that he says with just Alzheimer's. Alright. Let's keep going here. From the Daily Wire, Biden platform would raise taxes by $3.4 trillion, study says. From Joseph Curl. A new study finds that Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden's platform would raise taxes by $3.4 trillion on Americans and corporations over the next decade. The Penn-Wharton Budget Model, a nonpartisan group at the University of Pennsylvania's Wharton School, which Trump attended, I believe, has released the study on Monday. In addition to trillions more in taxes, Biden's platform would raise federal spending by about $5.4 trillion, or roughly 24% of the GDP by 2030, Fox Business reported. The spending plan, which is more than double what Hillary Clinton proposed during the 2016 campaign, would be funded by a slew of new taxes, including corporate tax hike. Biden's $1 trillion proposal signal that he'll continue the unprecedented level of government spending, and that began in mid-March as American life came to a grinding halt because of the COVID-19 crisis, Fox wrote. Biden has made it no secret that hiking taxes, pledging to do so on day one of his presidency should he win the election. His plan would increase the 21% tax rate to 28%, which would bring in more than $1.4 trillion from American taxpayers. The Democrats say he's targeting households earning more than $400,000. He plans to repeal the tax code changes in the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, which would raise the top income bracket rate from 39.6% to 37%. Bringing in close to $1 trillion, he also wants to increase investment and payroll taxes for those households, which would raise more than $990 billion. The Wharton study found that nearly 80% of Biden's tax increase would hit the top 1% of earners in the U.S., but the study also finds that Biden's platform would bring the largest federal budget increase since the Democratic presidential nominee George McGovern in 1972 pledged to deliver a guaranteed minimum income for all Americans. President Trump has taken aim at Biden's spending plans. Of course he did. At no time earlier than have voters confronted a clear alternative between two events, two visions, two philosophies, and two agendas, Trump said in his August speech accepting the Republican National Convention nomination. This election will resolve whether or not we save the American dream or whether or not we permit a socialist agenda to demolish our cherished future. And I do find it interesting. They pointed out that Biden did come out and say on day one, I'm going to repeal the tax scam that Donald Trump put out there. But nobody that's making under $400,000 is going to pay any more taxes. Let's be realistic about one thing. I know that the Democrats right now keep trying to sell you the fact that your taxes didn't go down under the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. They did. Your taxes went down significantly under the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. Significantly. You don't see it because, for the most part, and I've talked about this with several guests on Ed's World, I've talked about this with Elaine, I've talked about this with people who've sat in Elaine's place while she was taking care of meetings for the Jorgensen campaign. I've talked about this with numerous people. You don't see your tax cut because the majority of people in this country only see what they get back from the federal government at the end of the year. That's what the vast majority of people see. They don't see what they're paying in. But your taxes went down this past year and the year before. And your taxes will go up because Biden said, I'm just going to repeal all the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. Well, what's that going to do to the middle class who got a massive tax cut from this? And yes, he's going to couple this with a massive spending plan bigger than even Barack had. So I don't see, I know he's going to keep trying to nail the rich people, but in all honesty, you spend and you spend and you spend, and the middle class is going to have to take the brunt of this at some point. Because there's more of them than there are rich people. And the rich people have the means to move themselves and their tax money out of the country. So, something to watch for as we go on. And yeah, he definitely wants to spend. Here's an interesting one. Kamala Harris accidentally touts plans under a Harris administration during a virtual roundtable. From Joseph A. Wolfson. Kamala Harris, Joe Biden's running mate in the 2020 election, raised eyebrows on Monday evening after she accidentally touted economic plans under a Harris administration. Speaking during a virtual roundtable with small business owners in Arizona, Harris vowed that they will have an ally in the White House with the campaign's Build Back Better initiative. However, the California senator appeared to briefly suggest that she was at the top of the Democratic ticket. A Harris administration, together with Joe Biden as the President of the United States, she said. She quickly clarified, the Biden-Harris administration will provide access to $100 billion in low-interest loans and investments from minority business owners. Many on social media questioned whether Harris's misstatement was a Freudian slip, as critics of Joe Biden's candidacy insist that the former VP is a placeholder for the liberal senator. Joe Biden better hire a food taster, Ricochet editor-in-chief John Gabriel quipped. Uh-oh, Kamala, you weren't supposed to say that part out loud, Daily Caller's Greg Price exclaimed. The Trump campaign quickly seized on Harris's gaffe, with the Trump War Room tweeted that Biden's running mate let the truth slip. President Trump and his supporters have repeatedly attacked Joe Biden as being a Trojan horse for the radical left, while other critics have predicted that the former VP is serving as a placeholder until Harris is sworn in as president. Yeah, I don't see any universe where people think that Joe Biden, I got hairy legs, and that's the summer I learned about roaches, is going to be the president, or at least the person in charge. I don't see any universe where that's the truth. But yet, they keep trying to claim that he is. And Harris just put that out there at that point. So, I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think Biden is actually going to be the president? Or do you think that Harris is just waiting in the wings? I don't know. I'll check the live chat just a bit here and see what we got, but let's keep going. From the Financial Times. What happens if Trump loses but refuses to concede? From Katrina Manson and Kadeem Shuber in Washington yesterday. As Americans prepare to cast their vote in the U.S. election, a nightmare scenario looms large. What if Donald Trump were to lose his presidency, but refuse to accept defeat? Mr. Trump has repeatedly refused to commit to accepting to the election outcome, predicted widespread fraud, and claimed that the results from postal voting, which is expected to surge because of the coronavirus pandemic, might not be known for months or for years. His Democrat rival, Joe Biden has accused Mr. Trump of trying to steal the election and claimed that the military would escort him from the White House if he refused to leave. How is this any different? Hillary has tried to accuse him of stealing the election for 4 years. With the stage set for a dramatic showdown in the event of a close run result, a constitutional crisis could play out against the backdrop of violent unrest in the streets, something that has flared in several U.S. cities in the recent months. The Supreme Court and Congress might play a role in determining who takes the Oval Office, but legal scholars stress that resolving a disputed election should come down to good faith and willingness to reach a compromise. In short, one candidate and their party would have to accept that they have lost. Edward Foley, a professor at Ohio State University who has studied the vulnerabilities of the U.S. election system, said that both sides have defined the election as an existential test for the country, which would make it hard to concede defeat. Much rests on the character and the calculations of Mr. Trump and Mr. Biden, although neither would be able to dispute the election without the backing of the state and federal party machinery. The candidate can't just create a crisis by himself, Mr. Foley said. They're going to need some institutional players in the system to support their moves. It would not be the first time in recent history that the U.S. political class has waged legal warfare. After polling day in 2000, the court battles between W and Gore over vote counting in Florida escalated to the Supreme Court, which ruled in W's favor. By stopping a recount, Mr. Gore conceded rather than escalate the fight to Congress. So, they keep saying, what would happen if Trump refuses to concede? And yet Hillary Clinton has come out and said, Biden should just not concede on election night. Should just not concede under any circumstance or any day at any point. He should just never concede. They are planning something. They are planning something. I don't know what they're planning, but you just keep seeing articles like this come out together. There is something in the works. I don't know what it is, but they do have something in the works. So this is definitely something to keep watching over and seeing what could come out of this. But the fact of the matter is these articles just keep coming up, and they never go the other direction. They absolutely 100% never go the other direction. It's always, well, what happens if Trump refuses to concede? So, that's what we'll see up off of this. Let's keep going here. Speaking of Gavin Newsom, we talked a bit about him earlier. We've talked about the Senate Bill 145. We tried to have a roundtable about it. We've talked about what it means, what it actually means, what's going on with that. But we didn't know what was going to happen with this. Now we know. From ABC 10, out of Sacramento, Newsom signs controversial SB 145 into law. From Zach Fuentes, California Governor Gavin Newsom signed Senate Bill 145 into law on Friday. The bill's author, State Senator Scott Wiener, said the controversy over SB 145 was based on people's misunderstanding of the changes and some lies about that. That's actually true, because it's not anywhere near what they tried to say that it was. Current California law treats cases of statutory rape rather differently depending on what type of penetration occurred. For cases involving a young adult and a minor where vaginal intercourse took place, a judge can decide whether or not to place the convicted person of statutory rape on the sex offender registry. Before the SB 145, the judge had ordered that the person convicted to register as a sex offender should the rape include oral or anal sex. SB 145 would eliminate automatic sex offender registry for young adults who have anal or oral sex with a minor. Instead, a judge would make the decision, just as they do now in cases involving vaginal intercourse. This bill does not change the fact that it is illegal for an adult to have sex with a minor. SB 145 was meant to affect cases where the minor is a teenager between 14 and 17 and the offender, an adult, within a 10-year range. So, and we've gone over, they say, why does this matter? We've gone over why this matters on this show before. Now, Wiener wants equal protection under the law. I've drawn the conclusion, and I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I've drawn the conclusion that the only reason that this the initial law was in place to begin with was in case a pregnancy occurred. That way the judge could make the decision whether or not the statutory rapist was going to be a responsible father and could be around his kids after he got out of prison, because he'll still get 20 years in prison or whatever the hell the sentence is over there. And this is the same going along with the LGBTQ agenda that they have going on here. All of the other penalties for the statutory rape are in play. You go to prison. You have a fine. You have some sort of forfeiture to the government. But you might not have to go on the sex offender registry list, which means you can go down to schools and go find your next fucking victim. See, and that was the thing about having this law in the books in California to begin with, especially because their state age of consent is so rigid at 18. Is in case, God forbid, a 23-year-old gets a 17-year-old pregnant, he would still be able to be in his child's life after he got out of prison. He could still go back and raise his child. If he was on the sex offender registry list, he wouldn't be able to. So there are a few things to take into account with this one here. Gavin Newsom did sign it into law. I think that's a terrible idea. But I'm not in California. This law doesn't affect me. So there's no reason for me to go. But that's what we're seeing up out of California. Let's keep going here. I only got a few more left. From the Daily Wire, DHS has overwhelming intel that Portland violence organized by violent Antifa anarchists. Leaked email says, from Ryan Saavedra. A leaked email from a former top official at the DHS says the department has overwhelming evidence that the extremist violence in Portland was organized by individuals with an ideology categorized as violent Antifa anarchist inspired. They have an acronym for that at this point. VAAI. CBS News reporter Catherine Herridge tweeted out a letter that she obtained that was written by Brian Murphy, former acting undersecretary for intelligence and analysis at DHS, that said in July that the violence in Portland had reached a level that officials could no longer state the violence was opportunistic, but that it was organized. Murphy stated in the email that the individuals who were attacking the federal facilities in the city did so based on those ideologies. We have overwhelming intelligence regarding the ideologies driving individuals towards violence and why the violence has continued, Murphy continued. A core set of threat actors are organized, show up every night, night after night, share common TTPs, tactics, techniques, and procedures, and drawing on like-minded individuals to their cause. I recognize that we might not be able to attribute every individual as VAAI. However, we need to look at the totality of the intelligence, both current and previous, and recognize the motivation for the violence, and why people have shown up to commit violence for about 60 days, and why individuals are using social media to encourage the VAAI on the ground to carry out acts of violence, the email continued. The email stated that when a threat actor was encountered that was not VAAI, that the department would obviously adjust to the specific circumstance. The VAAI is specific to Portland and specific to the federal, state, and local facilities under violent assault. If similar situations arise down the line, the VAAI may apply, the letter continued. So, they're definitely saying that there's organization to this. I mean, they're not coming out and saying that there's Soros funding that goes along with this, like some conspiracy theorists might come out and say that. I do still believe that there's at least a possibility to that. I can't say whether or not that's 100% true, but there's at least the possibility that that's what's going on with this. It's not something I would rule out, but it's not something that I can say for definitive that yes, it's happening. But there's definitely organizing. This is not just a bunch of people coming together to say, let's throw bottles. There's definitely some sort of initiation process and some sort of way to make sure that people match the ideologies. There's no way. I mean, if you can get a big professional flag like that at a moment's notice, there is some sort of organization that goes along with this. So it's something to definitely watch. All right. A local one here from my neck of the woods. From the Kenosha News. Update: protest at courthouse. Authorities responding to caravan in the city, from Terry Flores. And this was happening while I was on Call Me Ignorant last night. Authorities from several different jurisdictions are responding to protesters who have assembled on the steps of the Kenosha County Courthouse Monday night. About 40 people are on the steps. Police dressed in riot gear line the front of the building. Scanner traffic has also indicated that authorities were responding to reports of a caravan of more than 10 to 15 vehicles traveling through the city. The metro station near the courthouse has been closed, along with surrounding streets. So they can't get onto the train tracks and get out into the residential areas, which is probably a good thing. Earlier this evening, the Wisconsin State Patrol, Kenosha County Sheriff's Department, and Kenosha Police stopped several vehicles near 52nd Street and Interstate 94. The vehicles were said to have had canceled license plates, according to authorities, which is the same as having the blacked out plates that we saw earlier on. So here's some of the violence that did happen over the weeks of unrest that we saw. It was only a couple weeks ago, and it does feel a little bit like forever. But yeah, that was from Tuesday, August 25th, the night that Rittenhouse shot those two guys. One of the arrests. Two armed men walking in front of the courthouse. Yeah, that's all the photos of everything that went along with this. But yeah, it was a peaceful protest, so don't get me wrong off of this one. But with the blacked out plates, you do have to wonder if there was something that was going to be coming up out of this. Yeah, all kinds of different canceled license plates, blacked out plates. We saw them coming down from Milwaukee. I saw pictures of these plates coming down from Milwaukee, and they did come up and gather at the courthouse steps. Kenosha may once again come under fire as we come along into this, especially if they are going to start gathering like that again. So it's definitely something to keep watching as we go forward with the news. Let's keep going here from Politico. Judge strikes down Pennsylvania virus policies. From the Associated Press, Pennsylvania Governor Tom Wolf's pandemic restriction that required people to stay at home, place size limits on gatherings, and order non-life sustaining businesses to shut down are unconstitutional, a federal judge ruled on Monday. U.S. District Judge William Stickman IV. Really? Did I not read that as the fourth? Wow. Who was appointed by President Donald Trump, sided with plaintiffs that included hair salons, drive-in movies, theaters, a farmer's market vendor, a horse trainer, and several Republican office holders in their lawsuit against Wolf, a Democrat, and his health secretary. The Wolf administration's pandemic policies have been overreaching, arbitrary, and violated citizens' constitutional rights, Stickman wrote in the ruling. The governor's efforts to slow the spread of the coronavirus were undertaken with the good intention of addressing a public health emergency, Stickman wrote, but even in an emergency, the authority of the government is not unfettered. Courts had consistently rejected the challenges to Wolf's power to order businesses to close during the pandemic, and many other governors, Republican and Democrat, undertook similar measures as the virus spread across the country. Wolf has since lifted many of the restrictions, allowing businesses to reopen and canceling a statewide stay-at-home order. But over the summer, his administration imposed a new round of statewide pandemic restrictions on bars, restaurants, and larger indoor gatherings in response to rising infection rates in some virus hotspots. The state has also imposed a gathering limit of more than 25 people for events held indoors and more than 250 people for those held outside. So, what's the takeaway from this as we get ready to lose Instagram here? One federal judge has already ruled Pennsylvania's lockdown unconstitutional. So if you still have a problem with your lockdown, it might be time to go start talking to a lawyer and start talking to your legislators, if they're on your side, and see what these federal courts are going to do for the rest of the states, because once one toppled, I'm a little surprised that nobody challenged Evers' second order. I know there were some talks about it, but nobody actually came up and challenged Evers' second order, which is set to expire here in a couple weeks. But yeah, if this one was unconstitutional, the rest of them are too. So we might be seeing the end of the lockdowns coming up here in the very near future. Something to watch for. All right, just a couple more here, and then we'll do Twitter trending and get on out of here. From the Weather Channel, Hurricane Sally crawling towards the Gulf Coast, Gulf course, with life-threatening storm surge and flooding rainfall. Hurricane Sally moving slowly near the Gulf of Mexico. Yeah, this is just at-a-glance stuff. So, Hurricane Sally is moving slowly near the northern Gulf Coast, where it will bring an extremely dangerous storm surge, flooding rainfall, and damaging winds this week. Sally will also pose a threat of flooding rainfall further inland across parts of the southeast. Sally will produce a deadly duo of human height storm surge and a foot or more of rainfall, along with parts of the northern Gulf Coast. Nearly 90% of deaths caused by hurricanes are the result of a combination of rainfall, flooding, storm surge, and rip currents. A hurricane warning has been issued for Grand Isle, Louisiana, eastward to Navarre, Florida, including Lake Pontchartrain. I don't know how to pronounce that word. Somebody from Louisiana help me out here. Lake Maurepas and metropolitan New Orleans. Hurricane conditions, winds 74 miles an hour or greater, are expected in some parts of this area early Tuesday. Tropical storm warnings are in effect to west and east of this hurricane warning, including parts of Louisiana and the Florida Panhandle. A storm surge warning is also in effect from Port Fourchon, Louisiana, to the Okaloosa, Walton County line in Florida, including Mobile Bay, Lake Pontchartrain, Lake Maurepas, and Lake Borgne. I'm not Cajun enough to read this article. This means there will be a danger of life-threatening inundation from a storm surge within the warning area in the next 36 hours. So, this is the next hurricane that's going to be coming along. Now, at this point, it is moving very, very slowly, which means that it may linger in some of these places for a little while. That's going to be something we definitely have to come off and look at. But it is also only at Category 1 coming into this. So this isn't some massive thing like we've seen from other hurricanes over the past years. This is relatively mild. It's still nothing to sneeze at, and we do need to sit back and watch this very carefully in case we do need to mobilize and make sure that we help the people that are involved with it. But for right now, this is just something to sit back and watch and keep an eye out over the next couple days and see if this is going to destroy the southern coastline or if this is just going to be something that makes a whole bunch of rain. All right, last one here, and then we will do Twitter trending for the day. Astronomers find possible sign of life on Venus. From William Harwood. You know, they've spent so much time focusing on Mars. And here, Marvin the Martian is just sitting here, worried about blowing up the Earth because it disrupts his view of Venus. Let's see what William Harwood has to say over at CBS News. Traces of a rare molecule known as phosphine have been found in the hellish, heavily acidic atmosphere of Venus, astronomers announced on Monday, providing a tantalizing clue about the possibility of life. Phosphine molecules found on Earth are primarily a result of human industry or the actions of microbes that thrive in oxygen-free environments. The researchers are not claiming that life has been detected on the second planet from the Sun, but the observation suggests that at least the possibility of microbial activity in the upper layers of Venus's atmosphere, well away from the planet's inhospitable surface. We have detected a rare gas called phosphine in the atmosphere of our neighbor planet, Venus, said Jane Greaves, a professor at Cardiff University in the United Kingdom and lead author of a report published in the Nature Astronomy. And the reason for our excitement is that phosphine gas in the Earth is made by microorganisms that live in oxygen-free environments. And so there's a chance that we have detected some kind of living organism in the clouds of Venus. Even so, the team said, much more studies needed to support any such claim, extraordinarily as it would be. In order to make this quite extraordinary claim that there might be life there, we really have to rule everything out. And that's why we're very cautious in saying that we're not claiming there's life, but we're claiming that there's something that is really unknown, and it might be life. team member William Baines said. Sarah Seeger, a fellow MIT scientist who studies exoplanet atmospheres, agreed, saying, "We're not claiming we found life on Venus." So, they don't know if there's life there, but there's definitely, to see phosphine gas, something that, as far as we know, is only created by these microbes. It points you in the right direction. I know I've heard theories that human life used to be on Venus, and then we did climate change and destroyed Venus, and that's why we need to be so careful about the Earth. I don't know if there's any basis in reality for that. Our industry over on Venus destroyed Venus, and now we're living on Earth. Maybe it's true. Most likely isn't. Definitely something to look into, though, as we go along. But yeah, as we sit, it's possible. It's possible that there may be some sort of, at least microbial life on the hellscape. And, think about Jurassic Park. What did the old dudes say? And it's been so long since I've seen that movie, I can't think of the old dude's name. But what did the old dudes say? Life finds a way. We look at life, and we look for all of these planets in the Goldilocks zone, assuming that life is going to sprout forward, exactly like it did here. Now, do I think there's intelligent life on Venus? Probably not. Do I think there's microbial life? Maybe. And if it's there, it's found a way to survive in the hellish landscape. Just like the microbial life that they keep saying they find on Mars. If it's there, it's found a way to adapt to the cold temperatures and lack of water that we see all over everything. Life isn't always going to spring up the way that we see it here. Life finds a way. So, something we will possibly see in the near future as well. And that's going to be it for the news for the day. And the last thing we do on Tuesday is read the Twitter trending for the day here. So, let me move my phone since we lost Instagram already. And find our trending for the day. Of course, as always, we will skip the Tuesday thoughts, Tuesday motivation, stuff like that. But we will see what the top 5 Twitter trends are for the day. So, number 1 is Apple event. Oh my god, click on this tweet for a surprise. Hashtag Apple event. So cool. Apparently they did some sort of animation for the Apple event. I am not an Apple fan. I use a retired iPhone as an iPod, as a music player and a podcast player. But other than that, I don't touch Apple. And yeah, their cords always do wind up like that, don't they? Apple event, Apple event. Yeah. Don't care. Oh, I like this one. Ready to buy the new product from the Apple event. Please select a payment method. Visa, MasterCard, American Express, or a kidney. I like that. All right. That's trend number 1. Let's see what trend number 2 that we're going to read is. Tuesday thoughts, Tuesday morning, Tuesday vibes, Tuesday motivation. Hey, they're all in one place. We can skip them all at once. All right. Number 6. Hagrid. There's a whole Twitter generation of people who hang around waiting to be offended. They wouldn't have won the war, would they? That's me talking like a grumpy old man. Neither would you, Hagrid. You were born in 1950. So apparently the dude that played Hagrid in Harry Potter, which I've only seen one of those movies and read one of those books, so I know next to nothing about this, is coming out and defending J.K. Rowling. Because everyone hates her right now because she's transphobic, even though I don't see any evidence to the fact that she's transphobic. But that's the popular thing to say right now. All right. City of Louisville. City of Louisville agrees to substantial agreement with Breonna Taylor's family. Local outlets report. So, I still don't think to this day, this actually, I should have put, I'm going to throw this up for tomorrow, so let's not forget about this. But yeah, apparently I still don't think the police officers are going to see a day in jail for this, but apparently there's been a wrongful death lawsuit, and the city of Louisville has agreed to a multi-million-dollar settlement that goes along with that. So we'll have more to read about that. We'll talk about that tomorrow. All right, next one. Peter Laviolette. Official, the 19th head coach in Washington Capitals history will be Peter Laviolette. Washington Capitals is hockey, I believe. Correct? Well, they have a new head coach, and it's Peter Laviolette. I don't know who that is. Yeah, it's hockey. It's Stanley Cup. I don't watch hockey. I don't understand anything that goes along with it, so yeah, I haven't really done anything with that. I don't know anything about this, unfortunately, but those of you who like hockey and like the Washington Capitals, there's your new head coach. All right, last one. Paul Rudd is going to be our last one here. Paul Rudd asked fellow millennials to wear masks in this funny PSA. Paul Rudd was right about Super Nintendo, and he's never led me astray. It's science, says shouty Paul Rudd. Again and again, he's really cross. If somebody's seen any scientific evidence that wearing a reusable, loose-fitting cloth mask in a community setting reduces transmission of SARS-CoV-2, please send it to me. Certified young person Paul Rudd wants you to wear a mask. Let's listen to actually what he has to say, and then we'll close it on out of here. Looks like it's a 2-minute PSA. And I can turn your ears on for this.
Yo, what up, dudes? Paul Rudd here, actor and certified young person. A few days ago, I was talking on the iPhone with my homie, Governor Cuomo, and he's just going off about how us millennials need to wear masks. Because,
cringe.
Get this, apparently a lot of COVID is transmitted by us millennials. No cap. So Cuomo's asked me, he's like, Paul, you gotta help. What are you, like 26? And I didn't correct him. So fam, let's real talk. Masks? They're totally beast. So slide that into your DMs and twitch it.
This is the cringiest fucking thing I've ever
check.
seen.
Yes, queens like ourselves. We want to go to bars. We want to drink, hook up, do our TikToks. I get it. I'm not going to preach at you like some celebrity. Ugh. This is a combo where I talk and you shut up and wear your mask. Hello? Oh, hi, Billie Eilish. What's that? You're wearing your mask? Man, I want to stan you. You're so my bae. Yo, listen, hype beasts.
Holy
Masks protect
shit.
you and your dank squad. Because caring about other people is the new not caring about other people. Now that's thick. You want a challenge? How about a stop the pandemic challenge? What about that? What about a save grandma challenge? That fun enough for you?
Wow.
My name is Paul, and I'm 6 feet tall almost. And I wear my mask, and it's all I ask that you wear your mask. Please wear your mask. Just wear a mask. Just wear a mask. It's easy. It's simple. Please. It's not hard. People are dying. Hundreds of thousands of people are dying, and it's preventable. It's preventable. Just wear a mask. I shouldn't have to make it fun. It's science. It's science. No! Look at us. Hey, look at us.
Look at us. Who would have thought wearing masks would be a problem?
Not me. We gotta yeet this virus. Oi.
That was so cringe. I'm glad you guys at least got to sit down and watch that with me, so I didn't have to suffer that one alone. But that is it. You know what? I might save that for tomorrow too. We might watch that one again. But that was cringe as fuck. Certified young person Paul Rudd wants you to wear a mask. Anyway, that's all that I have for the day. We will be back here tomorrow with more contemporary. So hope to see you tune in with that. Hopefully we'll see some more news coming up out of this. It was a slow news day today, but we still crested the hour mark. So hopefully we'll see you here tomorrow with more contemporary. Until then, I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.